Hey, DTA Nation, with the spring season right around the corner, that means it's time to start planning those grad parties. Old Southern Barbecue has great catering options for your senior. You can go with the barbecue staples like wings, ribs, or barbecue sandwich sliders, but they even have an incredible mac and cheese bar option as well. Congrats to all the seniors from DTA and OSB as you head into the final chapter, and go to oldsoutherncatering.com to get your grad party planning underway. And make sure to tell them that DTA sent you. Are you looking for a dedicated partner for your lacrosse needs? ES Lacrosse has got you covered. If you're brand new to the game, a seasoned vet, or a dedicated lacrosse parent, ES Lacrosse is the go-to partner for Minnesota Lacrosse and DTA Nation. Whether you need new gear, a restringing of your current setup, custom uniforms or apparel for your team, or one of their awesome starter sets for your brand new lacrosse player, the selection, expertise, and service at ES Lacrosse is unmatched. You can visit them in-store at one of their 3 metro locations in Woodbury, Chanhassen, and Vadnais Heights, or visit them online at eslacrosse.com. Are you looking for a dedicated partner for your lacrosse needs? ES Lacrosse has got you covered. If you're brand new to the game, a seasoned vet, or a dedicated lacrosse parent, ES Lacrosse is the go-to partner for Minnesota Lacrosse and DTA Nation. Whether you need new gear, a restringing of your current setup, custom uniforms or apparel for your team, or one of their awesome starter sets for your brand new lacrosse player, the selection, expertise, and service at ES Lacrosse is unmatched. You can visit them in-store at one of their 3 metro locations in Woodbury, Chanhassen, and Vadnais Heights, or visit them online at eslacrosse.com.
And welcome to Down the Alley. This is PMAC.
And Ted T.S. Spirides.
Section 7, lucky number 7 week. And, as each week goes, they're flying by. Section 7. Okay, we're almost at the end here.
Yeah.
Season's coming. It's, when you start this, kind of off-season podcasting, it's like, we're a couple months away. Not anymore. Not anymore. We're knocking on the door of the season.
Yeah, I think I've been seeing a handful of teams have been posting like, a month till the season, 3 weeks till the season, and now we're down into like the 18 days. Now we're getting we're under 20 days, I think, until the season is going to happen. So yeah, you're right. It's like section 1. That interview doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it was 8 weeks ago, almost now 7 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're getting close.
Lacrosse wise, what are you watching? What are you looking at? What's kind of happening, in lacrosse this time of year?
Yeah.
It's not quite our season. Winter league's over, spring breaks. It's kind of Minnesota wise awkward, but around lacrosse in general, there's more going on.
Yeah. I guess first thing is kind of an announcement, I guess, is DTA is partnered as a sponsor with a new showcase event here in Minnesota that's going to happen this summer. It's called the MN Lacrosse Showcase. It's run by college coaches. So, I think it's an interesting new way to not that that's not common. College coaches run showcase events all the time, but Scott Stark, who's a Minnesota guy, coaches at Maryville. We're going to get him on eventually here to talk more about it. And I believe Joe Peruzzi, who's a friend of ours, and a handful of guys have gone to Lewis. I think they're kind of working together to try to create, a Minnesota event, because they, the reality is they get a good handful of Minnesota guys to come play there.
Yeah, no, I think it makes a lot of sense. If you look at, opportunities and showcases around the country, like these types of things are happening. So to be able to localize it for our market, for, the players that we coach in our backyard, it makes a lot of sense. I think it's easier to bring 5, 10, even if it was 20 coaches, here versus bringing 100+ players, or, a whole club or 5 clubs, somewhere else. Again, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and we've always said to our club players, if there's an opportunity that for a Minnesota lacrosse player to go, get some recruiting exposure and they don't have to get on a plane or stay in a hotel, that's a big opportunity. Even if you're kind of, I would say, you're not quite sure where you stand as far as if you want to play at the next level or not. Having more stuff here in Minnesota for players to do to at least test the waters, I think is a huge deal. Because you don't want to get on a plane, fly to Maryland, and go to a showcase, and then realize like I don't really like showcases or I don't want to play. I think this will be a good opportunity for a lot of Minnesota kids, and then if they feel like they want to do more, they can. But yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it'll be a cool event, and we're excited to be involved with it.
Yeah, you've been talking to them behind the scenes. I'm kind of getting roped in, after the fact, but it's cool that DTA, I don't know how a part of it we will or won't be, but it's cool either way.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just to make sure people know, I mean, we're sponsoring and we're helping promote it. We're not involved in the operations of the event, so I
Right.
don't really know what's going to happen. But I know that Coach Peruzzi and Coach Stark run really solid programs. So if they're the ones that are setting it up, I would assume it's going to be, a top notch event.
I don't think we've mentioned when is it, where is it?
Yeah, it's July 22nd at Edina High School at one of their turf fields. So a good time, I think, too, kind of after the majority, I would say, of like the big club recruiting events. Like I think most teams will be done by that by that third weekend in July. There are a few things that teams do like later into July, but this is kind of a nice like kind of end cap to the summer. If you go to a couple tourneys, you're like, hey, I want a little bit more film, maybe get a couple more looks. This could be a good thing to add, one, and it's home. You're here in home. So, yeah, it should be go to mnlacrosseshowcase.com and you'll be able to look at the information. But yeah, go to the website and mnlacrosseshowcase.com. And I'm sure like I said, we're going to get Scott on here to hopefully talk a little bit more details around the event. All I know is like date, time, and that it's happening. So I wanted to shout that out.
Love it. Love it. Big guest this week, Beach, friend of the program. Is he in the waiting room yet?
Yep, he's coming in right now.
I think we should let him in. I think we should let him in. With us for Section 7 week, official source of DTA, former head coach of the Centennial High School, Coach Beach. Welcome to Down the Alley.
Thanks for having me.
Uh, Section 7. I should probably pull up, my notes and everything, but Section 7, when you were a coach, represented that section, going to the state tournament and whatnot. I think it's a section that has been competitive and is getting more and more competitive. But before we look forward, can we look backward? Who are the powers of the section? Who's represented Section 7? Over recent history.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys have hit it in the past, but Centennial's been there a handful of times. Chisago Lakes has been there a handful of times. It's kind of been the two teams that have kind of just gone back and forth over the last maybe 5, 6 years. Prior to that, Hanoka made a run for a couple times maybe. They got third place one year, I believe, and then Champlain Park was Champlain Park Blaine-ish before them. So yeah, recent memory, I guess it's really been Centennial and Chisago Lakes.
And looking back to last year specifically, kind of the talk of the whole section, kind of at the end of the year was the seeding.
Yeah.
And I guess if you aren't, for those that aren't really into it like we are, or they aren't part of Section 7, can you explain quick what happened with that, or like maybe why that decision was made? But for those, if you go back and look, the number 5 seed Centennial beat the number 6 seed Champlain Park in the section final. I guess that could happen in other sections, but it's rare to see. That's very rare to see a 5 and a 6 battling it out. So, yeah, kind of give us a breakdown of that change.
Sure, yeah, no problem. So I guess my understanding last year is that they use a formula called QRF. I don't know the details of how it's some website that runs it. They take like strength of schedule, goals scored, all this different formula stuff and kind of toss it together. And then they rank the teams that way. Prior to last year, it's been, coaches really have voted. So, I don't know why the change last year. The rumor mill, obviously, not for certain, but is that some of the coaches hadn't been putting their votes in over the course of the years, and so the AD that was in charge of seating the section was just getting tired of it and said, "Okay, fine. If you guys want to put your votes in, then this is the way we're going." I think to speak on that just for a minute about the seating, Centennial, if you look at their 24 class, was pretty crazy, good, and getting the 5 seed, having to go to Cloquet Esco Carleton, was a little bit of a challenge, I think, as the 4. But it is what it is, and the team that probably should have came out of the section did. So
Yeah, yeah, it all works itself out, but yeah, definitely an interesting. I think when that came out, maybe it was you or somebody else kind of
yeah,
alluded to that maybe happening, and then it came out, and everybody was like, "What? Like this is just crazy across the board." But um,
it's tough. The section is really spread out, right? So there's a lot of teams up north Minnesota that we don't really get to see in the metro area unless you get a random game to Duluth or whatnot. But so it's kind of hard to really tell where people are at. But yeah, it'd be nice if we go back to coaches vote. That'd be good.
You're looking at this. Is this the in terms of number of teams? Is this the biggest section or one of the biggest sections?
I think it is. I mean, it just seems like up north has kind of exploded a little bit with lacrosse, with some new teams and stuff like that in the last couple of years. And so, we're better to put them than in here. So,
Back to QRF for 2 seconds. I didn't know what QRF until this all happened. I've since talked to other coaches in different sports. I guess QRF, it's obviously like a real thing, but I guess some sections like in other sports, they use it every year. So I'm not saying that that is happening in Section 7 boys lacrosse, that they've adopted it long term, but it's not completely foreign as to maybe as foreign as it was to at least us three. As we start working towards next season and the teams, 2025, I know there's a lot of teams here, a lot of different staffs. I'm not super connected with a good amount of these. I know Centennial has a new head coach. That's a pretty big deal. Who did they hire, and any other new head coaches or maybe major coaching changes in Section 7 that should be on the fans' radar.
yeah, I mean, I don't know that there's a lot. The northern teams are tough for me, I guess. So I'm not quite sure what's going on up there. But yeah, I mean, Centennial did hire a new head coach this year. I believe his name is Connor. He came from. He was a D coordinator at Spring Lake Park, I believe, last year. Played at Champlin Park. Was it like a 2020 grad, maybe in high school or something like that? So pretty young kid. But cutting his teeth, and we'll see what happens.
Love it. Love it. No other major coaching changes on the radar.
Not that I can think of, no.
I feel like any new teams that popped up in these areas, since it is kind of a growing, I know they're not doing section realignment, but any new teams?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay. I'm just trying to, make storylines out of thin air here.
Yep.
Uh, going
I
to
mean, we could
20.
talk about maybe there's like 3 Duluth teams this time around. I mean, I know Johnson, steered you the wrong way a couple years back about how many Duluth teams there were, but
Let's get to that when we start talking about Duluth,
yeah.
because I don't even remember that. Sounds like you do. Before we get to Duluth, the number 1 seed Andover. I know you and me have talked a little bit of Andover. I'm excited to hear more nuts and bolts. They're coming off of a crazy hockey season. Not sure how much that affects the lacrosse season. Sports town. I've been high on this town. And is the rumor true? Is Andover is their year 2025? Is this for real? Or there could be a real one seed, not just the QRF one seed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would say yes. I know we've been kind of back and forth a little bit about it. I would say that Andover should run away with the one seed this year for Section 7. So Coach Weichel, I think has three boys, and this is the senior year for the youngest one, and we kind of all know how this works, right? The youngest kid's typically the best one, right? And Bubba is his name, or what they call him, Little Weichel. So he's like 79 points, I think, last year. Cole Jensen's coming back, 58 or 59 points last year. They basically have, I think, everybody coming back except for maybe two of their starting poles. Their goalie is phenomenal, super athletic. I think scored 3 or 4 goals in the season, so you kind of have to worry about that kid. Yeah, he's like a Brett Queener type, player. Just comes firing out of the net, and yeah, he's something to watch. So yeah, I
So
mean
is
they're
this goalie pushing transition? Is he doing a give and go with the deep holes? Like what's going on
oh yeah,
with this Bobino?
yep, yeah, he's all over the place. So I mean, if you don't pay attention to where he's at on the clear, he's gonna take it over the midline and he'll rip a goal on you. So I mean, he's pretty electric.
Um, and is this coach? He been there forever?
Yeah, yeah. Weichel's been there for a long time.
Okay,
Yep. Yeah.
that's what I
So no, I
figured.
mean I think he coached this group of kids when they're in youth. So obviously that makes a big difference. And yeah, I mean they're like I said, they're getting pretty much everybody back and I can't see how they wouldn't be the number one seed.
Looking at they have and do play a couple name brand teams. In 2025, could they beat a Maple Grove? They beat Rogers last year, weren't they really good? Rogers.
Yeah, Rogers is pretty good. Yep. They won the Northwest Suburban Conference for the first time ever.
Centennial, are they gonna maybe make some more noise? Um, within the schedule that they have.
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see him beating a Maple Grove. Obviously there's a question mark on the long pole side of things. But if you have a goalie that can kind of stop the shots he's supposed to and do the things he does, their face-off kid is okay. I think he's like a 40-50% guy. So I mean, it's kind of a coin flip at the X. But so those are probably the two question marks they have is face-off and some poles. But they like to play fast, which is kind of crazy too. So.
Ted, anything on Andover?
I think we hit on all the stuff. Yeah, to get their top two scorers back, and then yeah, I noticed their goalie had a couple goals. Like their goalie was like not didn't have the least amount of goals on their team of guys who scored goals. So like that's an interesting set. There's a couple guys that had played 15 games and had one goal or one assist. He had three. So um. Yeah, I mean, hey, if you get like your top two guys back on offense and a good goalie, like I don't know. Depth is obviously a factor to maybe go all the way, but to be a really good team in Minnesota, if you have a couple guys on offense and a goalie that can bail you out a little bit, yeah, I don't see why they're going to take a step backwards at all.
Number two seed last year, Duluth, one of two teams in Duluth, three. I'm not sure. Maybe Beach can let us know. Duluth, the Wolf Pack, 10-5. 10-5 last year, came in at the two. As discussed, didn't make it to the section final. What's going on in Duluth? How many teams do they have? What else needs to be discussed here?
Yeah, I think just the Wolfpack and Duluth Marshall, I think, are the two. But yeah, so they lost, I think, three of their top five kids. And the two top players that they had, Hayden Clore and Gabe Polasek, 148 points combined. So I mean, those kids were putting the ball in the net. So 148 points out of 255 points is what they lost. So I mean, that's pretty tough when you look at those kids. And really, they had probably, I would say, maybe the best goalie in the section. It was a senior last year and is gone, Connor Kiergaard. So, he definitely backstopped them to the two seed, I think. Did a really nice job. And I think if I'm remembering right, I wrote a couple notes. They have a couple of long poles that have graduated too. So two of their better long poles are gone. So, obviously we'll see what they can bring back. But losing three of the top five, their goalie and a couple poles is going to be a little bit of a rebuild, maybe.
Yeah, no, I remember their goalie being really good as well. Section 7, a lot of good goalies in Section 7, last year anyway. Um, yeah, I mean, looking at their lax sub stats, they do have a couple guys that were juniors or they had one guy who's a junior, this Brett Kurth, he had 30 points. So it kind of looks like, and then their fourth leading scorer, Hayden Churchill, he also graduated. So one, two, four. Um, yeah, so like they got their number 3 back and their number 5 back, but that drop off from those top two that you mentioned to it kind of goes down from 80 points, 70 points down to 14, 15. So I, the good news for them is they have guys that were contributing. And when you have two superstars like that, they eat up a lot of the goals and the assists. But um, yeah, I think it's going to be someone's going to have to step up, and who knows who that's going to be. Yeah, I guess time will tell.
Number 3 seed last year, another hockey town, Hermantown Proctor. Uh, Number 3 seed, like again, not a team that I'm thinking about and hearing about enough if they're a 3 seed in any section. I heard this upset in the section semis led to the upset in sections in the hockey season this year. I don't know how much that correlates or not. That's just what I'm hearing. Hermantown Lacrosse, what's going on there?
This is the one I'm kind of more in the dark on, just because they don't put grad years up on Lax Hub. So you kind of sit there and you're like, okay, well, what are they bringing back? And you don't really know. I to be honest, I'm gonna take a knife here. I didn't see him play last year. And without the grad years, it's kind of hard to kind of diagnose what might be happening. But like you said, they've always had a good hockey program, good athletics. So you would think that they'd come back firing.
Yeah, I remember last year they were kind of popping up on the radar. They were 6-0. Then they lost to Moorhead, and then they won again against Cloquet Carleton. So they were 7-1 heading into that mid-May game against Duluth. Duluth did beat them, and then they lost to Wayzata. So I had a little skid in the middle, but then won a handful of games at the end of the year, and then fell to Champlin Park pretty big in the section quarters. So. From looking at this, it looks like a team to me that is growing and is kind of they take care of business against some of the smaller, leaner teams when they play some of the big dogs. Are not maybe not quite there yet, but like we don't know if they were a young team, an old team, right? Because they don't have the grad years, but they had a good season last year, and I just as a fan of Minnesota lacrosse, I would love to see more Duluth, Superior, Hermantown area teams do well. And maybe they can represent at the state tournament someday, in the future.
Number 4 seed last year. I if I'm not mistaken, I was on this team early and often. First year program, didn't lose until May 7th. If you think I'm ditching them, you're dead wrong. Best logo in the state, arguably, at least a top in the discussion of that. This team was a wagon. They had a heck of a regular season, a good run. Fell to the section champion. Um, I I saw this team play live last year. They were legit. Cloquet, what's going on there?
Yeah, I think unfortunately for Cloquet, they lost their top three scorers. So Sage Moran, Michael Kadati or something like that. I don't know how to say the last name. Two of the big boys for them. Yeah, they were legit on offense. And I think it'll be interesting to see what they can bring back. They do have a couple poles coming back, two of their better poles coming back. Their goalies back, face-off guys back.
Young goalie.
Yes, young goalie. Yep. So, something to build around for sure. It's just it's tough when you get those two. It just feels like in Section 7, you always have a team that has just two guys that are kind of studs and then they just roll through stuff. So hopefully they pass on the knowledge, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and at PMAC, you mentioned you saw them play, and you texted me kind of immediately after that game and said, Cloquet Esco Carlton, don't want to miss those,
The
miss
Lumberjacks.
the Lumberjacks. You said they don't look like a first year lacrosse team, a first year program. Now I know they operated as a club for a while, so it's not like these kids had never seen a lacrosse stick before,
Right.
but you felt like, all right, like they have a legitimate squad and can play, and their schedule wasn't anything crazy, but they handled the teams that they played, and
Yeah.
um and yeah, I mean, again, like, we'll see what happens in year two. Got to replace scoring, but um yeah, it's cool to see that they had a good year their first year. Hopefully that builds in momentum heading into this year and moving forward.
The fifth seed, Centennial, champion of Section 7. Uh, Section 7 power over recent history, as discussed. New head coach in 2025. How are we looking going into 2025?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a little bias on my end just because I have a little bit more information on these guys, but huge 2024 class. Brill Sherman and Logan Adams kind of led that charge for them. They got a lot of time. I stopped coaching there in 22, and they got a lot of time as then sophomores for me. So, but they lost those two and Kellen Crumweedy. So those top three guys are gone. I think my notes say 264 points out of 367 total points. So 72% of their offense is gone. And I think when you watch them play, Broll and Logan took up a lot of defense attention. And so some of the younger kids were able to score some goals. So it'll be interesting to see what they got. They bring back a handful of kids. Gavin Cunningham is a 46 point kid. Sullivan Marshall, he's a senior this year, 30 points. And Ike Adams, Logan's little brother, little sophomore. So he's definitely got some juice to him. But yeah, they lost their goalie. They lost, I don't know, a lot of polls. I think they have an LSM coming back, and maybe one close guy. That's probably about it.
Yeah, this Gavin Cunningham, only a sophomore last year, so he's only a junior now, and had 46 points last year, so a significant contributor on varsity. When you got Logan and Broll out there, you're not going to be drawn maybe the top poll, so we'll see how he kind of transitions to maybe being the guy that they key on the scouting report. But 46 points as a sophomore in varsity lacrosse in Minnesota is significant. Um, and I think their face-off guy, or at least one of them, graduated as well.
Both of them did, yeah. So that's been, I think, the Achilles heel for Centennial going into state tournaments upon a couple other things. But I mean, they've never really had a face-off kid that can go 40, more than 40 or 50%. So it's been a struggle.
Yeah.
The number 6 seed, Champlain Park, a school that I feel in community, I feel like is becoming a lacrosse school. They got the girls' side. I feel like the boys' side is they're getting there. They've got another step to take. Is 2025 the year? Are they still really close? Am I completely off on that? Is it fake vibes? I feel like there's a vibe there.
I mean, if you want to talk about a face-off kid vibe, then sure, we can talk about that. So Jared Zabel, their face-off kid is phenomenal. He's like 82% on the year last year. Plus, he scored a bunch of goals and set the guys up. So he's coming back. They get their best attackman, Gavin Bosch, back, an 80-point kid. So those two are going to be a dynamic duo. Other than that, really, their goalie's back. Outside of those three, it could be an interesting year for them. They always kind of surprise people. It seems like they steal a couple here and there. And getting all the way to the section final was big for them this last year. So hopefully they can build on that.
Yeah, kind of just clicking through, the names. They do lose their top guy, top scorer from last year, but the names that you mentioned, handful of contributors coming back. Like, I mean, they have a significant amount of guys coming back. And then, like you mentioned, this Jared Zabel, 81.4% on 242 faceoffs taken. So that's a significant amount. And then 18 goals and 29 assists as a face-off, quote unquote face-off guy. So he is at least at the on this Champlin Park team. He's kind of a three-way midi. He's playing offense, defense, face-off, doing a lot for them. And now with Braden Strausser graduating, he might even get more points this year. He might even be relied on more on the offensive end. So I kind of like this Champlin Park team, to be honest with you. Um, they might be sneaky in Section 7.
Yeah, and that Jared, I think Jared's he's committed to Maryville, so definitely a good player. And yeah, I mean he'll definitely get some more of a lion's share of the offense, I'm guessing. And yeah, they could be sneaky good for sure.
The number 7 seed last year, Blaine Bengals. I don't know if Burrow's on this team or not in 2025, but their coach, Alex Johnson, what is he? Year 3, 4, 5?
Yeah, I think he's year 3 now.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So Coach Johnson, he's been in the mix now for a few years. I feel like they've been trending in the right direction ever since they hired him. Is that going to continue in 2025?
Yeah, it probably will. The hard part for them, they lost a really good goalie. I think he's at St. Thomas now. Doesn't start, but I think he's on the team there. A 72% faceoff kid, and their number one pole. So that was kind of a tough blow, I think, going into this year for them. But they get 3 of their top 4 back from a scoring perspective. Interestingly, I think one of the best offensive kids they had as an 8th grader last year, Steven Axelrod. So he'll be a 9th grader, and I know they're pulling up another 8th grader that's got pretty nice little hands and some shots. So we'll see. They have some young midfield, and their LSM comes back. So we'll see how they form it up.
Looking at their schedule last year and just kind of their games, they like their record wasn't maybe the greatest or like something to hang their hat on, but it was a lot of close games. A lot of their losses were a couple goals. A lot of their wins were a couple goals too. Only a handful of games that were, more than 3 or 4 goals. So like, being a year older, I mean, obviously losing the goalie and the faceoff guy is going to impact some of that, but maybe some of their younger guys being a year older, maybe they win a few of those games, get a couple extra goals or whatever. But 1 goal losses or close losses to top teams. I mean, Armstrong's, um, Champlins, Rogers, Maple Grove, like a lot of close games, and a 5 goal game against Edina, who is, maybe the favorite to win it all this year. So, yeah, I think they've got something there.
As I look at the 8th seed, I'm getting kind of similar vibes. Chisago Lakes, a team that has competed in Section 7, has won the section at times, had a close one against Farmington. Interested to, maybe Ted's got some insight on this squad too. Chisago, I feel like they always have just a dude every couple of years who throws the team on their back and carries them to state.
Yeah, they were a face-off factory for a bit there. They had a kid, I think you alluded to it a couple times where you played him in state, and that kid was he was just a dude. You're right. I think he's coaching now at Mounds View. So hopefully they can be a face-off factory there. But yeah, no, they've had some good face-off kids. Ben Kirkhow this year, he's a senior, 74 points. He's been a problem. He's just athletic. And I think with Chisago Lakes, they just have these kind of freaky athletes that they kind of pluck all over the field, and they might not have the best hand skills, or lacrosse IQ, but they know how to score the ball, right? So, and last year, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they went through a coaching change. So a new coach last year, I believe. So hopefully, he's been around for a while. His kid played for the Loons, went to college. So hopefully he's got some acumen there that they can put some stuff together.
Yeah, another team I'm looking through that gets a lot of players back. I know talking to their coach, their new coach last year after our game with them, he did allude to last year for them kind of being a rebuild year from a really good kind of 21, 22, or sorry, 22 and 23 group. And this was going to be a lot of younger guys, which I think obviously they're all coming back. This Ben Kirkhouse was really good. Max Bobrowski, um, so their top two scorers. Uh, they do lose this Judah Gehring, and he had 16 goals last year. I think he scored 15 of them against us. 15 of his 16. So when we played him, I think he had 6 of their 9 goals, and he was again kind of like that. He was more athletic than everybody on the field, and it was kind of unorthodox, but he just found a way to get his hands free, and he'd get a step on you, and he'd put it somewhere, and he'd score. Long story short, they do lose him. He was a senior, and I think I saw that he got like Player of the Week for some Division 3 school that he's at now. So shout out to him if he listens to this. But they do get their goalie back, who is, I would say, probably on the all name team, Dominic DeRocker. So he's a hype guy. I remember him from that first game. Like he's kind of a smaller guy, but like when he makes a big save, like he lets you know it and he gets his poles pumped up. And I think Chisago will be better this year than they maybe were last year.
Yeah, I think if they can get a higher seed, it's a tougher place to go and play. Their fans get kind of wild, in a good way, right? And pump them up. So yeah, I mean if they can snag the, 1, 2, 3, whatever seed, make people come play them, huge.
Yeah.
The number 9 seed Anoka, another squad that I feel like every handful of years kind of gets a squad, gets a group, and kind of goes on a run. A team I don't think I've ever played though. What's the vibe with the Anoka program, and what's going on in that community?
Yeah, I mean it's interesting. It seems like they play younger, like they get a crop of younger kids and play those kids, and then like after third or fourth year when they've been playing varsity for a while, they just kind of like blow you up, right? That's what happened, and I'm trying to remember like 17 or 18. They had a couple of kids that just like went crazy. So they get their two top kids back. This Ethan Massman is kind of like a do-it-all dude. We talked about Jared as like a face-off, more of like a face-off specialist. This kid kind of just scores goals. And Charlie Hendrickson, both those kids are coming back for them. Yeah, I mean, it just feels like they run out some young kids. The coach has been there forever. And yeah, you just never really can count them out. They popped us in the face in 2022, first game of the season. We weren't expecting anything, and all of a sudden it's like, wham, we just lost, and we were thinking, okay, we're a really good team this year. So yeah, it's always a surprise with them.
Uh, the 10 seed last year, Spring Lake Coon Rapids. I feel like there's a little more noise around that team, program, maybe at the youth level. I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up. What is that a squad that you've played or community you've been around?
Yeah, so they co-op with Blaine for youth lacrosse. So I've seen a handful of those kids. It's interesting that you would think that Spring Lake Park, Coon Rapids, Andover, and Blaine would all have their own youth stuff, but they all kind of funnel back into Blaine for some reason. So I do see a handful of those kids on the younger side. But yeah, no, Spring Lake Park, they probably have the best goalie in the section coming back. Tommy Scramstead, tall, lanky kid. You can go 5 hole on him all day. So I'm just gonna burn him a little bit there. But no, he's a good kid. He definitely backstops them really well. It's just I think the hard part for them and talking with him a little bit is they're gonna be young. And I think they either got a new coach last year and this is a second year, I think. Obviously lost their D coordinator Centennial, so it'll be interesting to kind of see how that works. Brady Herzog, phenomenal kid for them. 2025, he's a senior. Other than that, name wise, not really sure what they bring back.
Yeah, it looks like a handful of their top guys were 2024, so graduated. But this Toby Tranby, he's a 2026, so he's a junior this year, and he had 37 points last year. So between him and Brody Herzog, I think those two are gonna have to carry the bulk of the offensive load. Although Tommy Scramstead had a goal as well, goalie goal as well. So maybe they'll throw him out there on man up, Brent Queener style or something like that.
And to round out the section, we've got Forest Lake. We've got GRG. Is that Greenway?
Grand Rapids.
Yeah, yep.
Grand Rapids Greenway, and Duluth Marshall. Kind of some building programs. I think is GRG pretty new
Yeah,
within the last
yep.
few years. Yeah. So yeah, are those anything to note on those programs? Have you ran into them or anything?
No, not really. Nothing that really jumps out, to be honest with you.
I know Forest Lake, weren't they at our Down the Alley Summit 1 or 2 years ago, a couple years ago?
Yep.
So that's cool. That's cool. Um, okay, back to my question sheet here. If you had to pick, so we ripped through pretty much every team here. Um, Usually there's like a dark horse team, and maybe it's Andover, but they were the 1 seed, so it's kind of weird calling them the dark horse. So I don't know. I don't know if they're allowed to be the dark horse. I'm kind of thinking out loud as I ask this question because I kind of want to have one in the back of my mind. Who's your dark horse here in 2025?
My dark horse in 2025. I'm going to say Blaine is my dark horse in 2025. I think Johnson gets it done this year. It's gonna be tough against Andover, but I think that they have enough pieces in place, can get some stuff together. Yeah, I think Blaine probably is the dark horse.
I like that. As we were talking, I was kind of thinking the same thing. I kind of felt like there was like maybe something there. Um, so I like that. I think I like that call.
Um, we've asked this question to all of our guests. Section 7, at the state tournament, every section has kind of a different history, different compete level, etc. But in 2025, what can Section 7 do at the big dance?
Yeah, I thought a lot about this before. Obviously, we're talking. Section 7 is, and I think some people like to joke around that 7 and 8 are kind of the throwaway sections, and they're going to be the 7 and 8 seed in state all the time. And for good reason, I guess. There's not been a team in 7 that's really kind of gone all the way to a section or a state final game. Like I said, Centennial went and got third place in 2009, and Oka got third place at one point in time. I believe Champlin Park got third place, and Centennial most recently got fourth place in 2022. So, decent turnout for those teams. But I think overall, if you're going to say that Andover is the 1 seed, and let's say the 1 seed comes out of the section, I would say that they're probably a top 20 team. But I wouldn't say that they're a top 10 team. And so then that's kind of a struggle when you look at, are they going to get the 8 seed and then have to play, whoever. So it's one of those things, and I think people joke about it, but in this year for sure it could be true. You look at Section 6, there's a handful of teams that probably are better than the team that's coming out of 7. But things happen, so we'll see how it goes.
Has Section 7 won a consolation championship?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
I felt like Chisago's 2021 team maybe did. I'll look it up right now.
Because yeah, fine. You don't go to a state final or you don't place third, but like, okay, you get the 1 seed out of the way and you go on the other side of the bracket, right? You can still bring home some hardware, which is cool.
Yeah, yeah, and obviously, being a part of Section 7 for a while, I think what are the big things and maybe the turning point for them? Northwest suburban teams have pretty much been the teams that come out outside of Chisago Lakes, and now that Northwest Suburban has a lot more flexibility in their game schedule, they used to only have two non-conference games.
Yeah, did they
And
split that in half, or how did they do that? I remember us. It might not even been you. I remember talking about that on the podcast in the last year or two.
yeah, so they split it up. You can have some crossover games or whatever, and then they play for, basically the conference championship. But yeah, I mean it's open the gate. I think they get like 4 or 5 open games now. So being able to play some tougher teams, I think will definitely help. At least that local group. The independent groups, or the northern teams obviously have to make the trek down to kind of get some different competition. But I think that's been the hindrance, I think, in Section 7 is just quality of opponents to kind of like bolster. You get to the state tournament and you kind of just, oh my God, what's going on? You know.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Ted, did you
Yeah,
find anything for us?
there's games that are missing here, I think.
Surprised.
In Lax Hub, it looks like maybe Anoka in 2017 may have gotten third or maybe consolation. Um, I know it did say that Chisago in 2021 lost to Prior Lake in the first round, but then there's no other information on what
I
happened.
think there was only one round if you lost, I think, because that was after the COVID year, right?
Okay, so is that the year where
Oh,
they didn't do
you might
con
be right.
yeah,
Yep.
right. Okay. Well, they would have been consolation if they would have played. So
Yeah, let's just give it to them.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, since you're not a coach currently, if you want, we can take your rankings. Otherwise, if you don't want, what's a bold take that you have for Section 7 in 2025?
Oh man. I would say that I think a northern team will make the section finals and make it interesting, like very interesting.
I like that.
I like that too.
My bold take for for this section is that the 13 seed QRF is going to win the entire section because they're going to have an injury and they're going to be like 4-9 or whatever going into sections. And they're going to get their guys back and they're going to go on the road to basically just all over the state and go in the section. But
Awesome. Well, Coach, thanks for coming down the alley with us and talking Section 7. I'm sure we'll have to have you on during the season to touch base on some of these teams. And
we should have got Jake Mellum's Andover picks for restaurants, but
hey, Andover started getting good at lacrosse once they didn't can them, but I'm gonna run with it. They canned them and canned Mellum, and now they're getting good at lacrosse. So that sounds like what's the verdict here.
I will throw out a restaurant in Duluth, Uncle Louie's Cafe. It is like about 200 square feet, so it's like 4 bar stools, and if you like pancakes and you like breakfast, massive pancakes. And so if you're like, it's probably not a place you want to bring the team to, because that would take 6 hours for them. But if you're like a city team that's going up to Duluth to do like the overnight thing, and you're a parent that's maybe making the trip, that would be a place I would go. Uncle Louie's Cafe.
Great name.
Yeah, yeah. So shout out to I think it's still there. It's been a while, but I don't see it's a low overhead restaurant. I'll just say that. So um, I think it's still there, but yeah, shout out to that place.
Awesome. Beach, thanks for coming down the alley. We will talk soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. We'll see ya.
And thank you to Coach Beach, former head coach of Centennial, current Section 7 source of Down the Alley. Always a pleasure having Beach on to talk lacrosse, talk food, talk barbecue, talk whatever. Good guy. And Section 7, I think it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think so too.
I totally forgot about QRF. And then he brought that up, and I was still pulling stuff up. Once we got started, I'm like, oh yeah, that debacle from last year.
Hopefully it goes back to how it used to be, just coaches' votes. I feel like that's the easiest, and maybe not the easiest way to do it, but that's the best way to do it. But neither here nor there.
Time to jump into rankings. Ted, you and me, we're gonna throw it back to the boys. I'm gonna let you go first because I've got a couple. This is very selfish of me. I've got 5 teams on my list. How I want to play them.
Yeah.
I'm
Okay.
I other than yeah, I don't know. I want to hear your thoughts first.
My 1 and my 4, I was pretty confident with. My 2 and my 3, I kind of had
That's
it.
how I feel. That's how I feel right now too.
Back. So I'm gonna go with what I have now. I'm not gonna change it again. I got Blaine at my 4. Um, I wrote this down before Coach Beach made his bold prediction or his dark horse.
That shot him up the rankings for me.
Yeah.
Shot him up.
Um, but I am interested kind of with their loss of their goalie and their faceoff guy. That'll be again, it's not a death sentence. It's not they have a good coach, so I'm sure he'll figure it out, but that will be an interesting thing to replace. So they're my 4 right now. I'm gonna go Chisago Lakes 3. I think they have a good team, and I think they get a lot of key pieces back. Um, that means I have Champlin Park as my 2. Chisago and Champlin, I was kind of back and forth on. Um, I I did like what Beach said. I think they're just a gritty team that kind of everybody always counts out, and they always seem to kind of find a way to make it work. And this year they actually get a couple of their studs back. I do think Andover gets the most back. Had a really great season last year. They are, in my opinion, the team to beat in this section. So they are my number 1 team for Section 7.
Yeah. So you're with your rankings, you're confirming something, and that is Centennial not being in the top 4. And for me, that's hard for me. That's hard
Yeah.
for me. They won the section by 10 goals last year.
Yeah. So I originally, like my first, I'll disclose this. The first thing I wrote down, I had Centennial as my 4, but I forgot to put Andover in it. So then I had to like redo it, and then it was kind of between Centennial and Blaine, and I went with Blaine. I don't know why.
We got to trust the source, right?
Maybe recency bias. Centennial's got a new coach. They lost 2 superstar
I know.
guys. Again, their next guys up might be studs. We don't know. But
This feels like a section 2. I feel a little dirty leaving them out.
yeah, no, I mean they've dominated the section for, they've been the winner or the runner up for 8 straight years now. Um, and so it did feel weird leaving them out, but there's a lot of change going on over there. So I don't know. It kind of feels like Section 6 last week where there was just like,
Someone gets left out.
I left Jefferson out and they could be a 2 seed for all we know. Like, and
Right.
I just was like, kind of had to just, you make your pick and you just got to live with it.
All right. Well, in that case, my number 4 seed, if you think I'm leaving them out after the season that they had for me, for their city, for the program, no, they're not leaving the top 4 in my book. Cloquet, the Lumberjacks. For me, they have earned my trust. I can't say I'm a lifer because I probably said I was a Bison Boulevard lifer, and I'm not. I can't say I'm a lifer with the Lumberjacks, but they have earned my 4 seed bid. Number 3, you kind of talked me into this. Chisago, I think that's the knowledgeable, and maybe they even should be higher. I think that's the knowledgeable team to keep in the top 4. Studs. It seems like they're due for a guy to put them on their back and carry them to state. It's about that year. It hasn't happened in a year or 2. Blaine shot up the rankings. You got to trust the source. A good head coach, right? He's in year 3 or 4. And Andover. The source of Beach. I am riding this year. I could be sorely mistaken. So I guess if I go down, I'm taking them down with me. Throwing Andover and Blaine at 1 and 2. Andover, yeah. Fire my wife's friend's husband and become good at lacrosse. I love that. I love that. Get rid of them. Get rid of them, and let's go to the moon together without them.
Yeah, interesting. A couple thoughts on that. Chisago, I'll tell you on April 10th, what they got because Farmington opens the season with Chisago again. Thank God they come to
At home, I hope.
at home. Although I will say, Chisago Lake's nice town. It's a hike, but I was driving through. I was like, oh, I'd actually live up here. Like it's nice and I don't know.
Yeah.
It surprised me. I didn't know what to expect, and I was like, oh yeah, no, this is a cool area, and they had brand new turf too, so
Not a big
good
deal.
facilities. But yes, they come to us. I guess we'll see on April 10th on how
I wonder
how
if
that
I'm available. I wonder if I'm available that night.
how
Probably
that
not.
pick looks. Cloquet, if they win the section, is the parade gonna be at Black Bear Casino, right there in Carlton?
I'm not gonna ask them to book me a room, but if they book me a room, I'm there.
All right.
I'm there.
Uh,
Comp me a room and
yeah.
let's have a night, let's have a week, whatever they want. Let's bring the mics.
Yeah.
Let's do it up.
Yeah. We will send this over now to the girls coach Brent Eaton of Chisago Lakes. So we're gonna kick it over there right now. And we are welcoming Coach Brent Eaton from the Chisago Lakes girls lacrosse program. He is our Section 7 girls lacrosse source this year. Someone that we've had some conversations with a little bit over the last maybe year or so. I know our source and he connected at some point. And Chisago Lakes has been a team that has been kind of climbing up the ranks, getting a little bit more attention, and we know a lot of them listen. So it's great to have Coach Brent on. So Brent, thank you for coming down the alley with us tonight.
Yeah, thanks everyone for having me. Like I said, it's good to talk lacrosse. 'Tis the season, right? And
Yep.
it's good to be on your show. Thanks.
Before we get started in the actual section breakdown, why don't you give us a little bit of your background just to kind of introduce the listeners to who you are, and just kind of set the stage for as we get into talking about the section.
All right. Yeah. Lived in the Chisago Lakes area for about 20 years now, actually. Grew up in northern Minnesota. I've coached a lot of various sports, baseball, football, hockey, lacrosse, over the last 20 some years, 25 years or so. So, had my, coaching background in each of those sports. So it's good, well-rounded, I guess you could say. And it helps, with lacrosse still being a fairly new sport, especially up here. It helps me relate to those, the kids that aren't real familiar with lacrosse, so I can kind of speak their language, I guess you could say. So, yeah, I've had two daughters that one has went through this Chisago Lakes program. She graduated last year, and I have a junior as well on the team. So
Cool. Yeah, no, I think obviously you've been coaching for a long time, and before we look ahead to this season, I kind of want to just touch on last year. It looks like, I got the bracket pulled up. We had Andover beating Centennial for the Section 7 championship. A 6 seed over a 5 seed was.
I've been waiting for this section because of it.
And
no one saw that coming.
Well, we talked with a coach for our boys interview, and he had mentioned that Section 7 went to a QRF ranking system. Did that happen for girls as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if the people listening missed our conversation, maybe they skipped ahead just to the girls part. QRF is a ranking algorithm, a ranking system. There's other sports that use it pretty exclusively. Hasn't really been used in lacrosse much, but it factors in a lot of different things: strength of schedule, score, goals scored, all these things. And normally in lacrosse, the coaches meet at a meeting right before the section, and they basically talk about the teams and where they think they should be ranking, and they argue
Mhm.
and they agree and they disagree, and then all of a sudden you have a ranking of you're the 1 seed, the 2 seed, whatever. The QRF is algorithmic, so sometimes obviously the more games you play, the better the algorithm is going to seed teams. And so there could be some weird things. For example, Centennial had to travel up to Marshall School for a quarterfinal game. Now, nothing against Marshall School, but maybe, that, and then they won 16-5 on the road. So like maybe that should
Yeah.
flip. That was kind of the same thing with the boys side of maybe some of the seeds were a little weird, and maybe that's why you get a 6 and a 5. But nonetheless, any thoughts on that as we, before we move forward, or just last season in general?
Yeah, I think that the QRF thing, I think it's a good tool to kind of get the ball rolling. But I think you still need the seating, like you said, the sit, not necessarily sit down, but the back and forth, the arguing, the talking about your team and fighting for them and what all that whole process, right?
Yeah.
The QRF, as you can see last year, probably was a little off, right? And just to let you know, we voted it down for this year after last year. So the whole section voted, and we aren't going to use it this year. So
Okay.
but yeah, Centennial and Andover were probably a little lower than they probably should have been, but because they both play really strong schedules. The records weren't like usual per se. I think Andover was 4-9 regular season, but I mean they play the Rosemounts, Eden Prairies, and Champlains, and Maple Groves, and those were their losses, so they're very well battle tested. So same thing goes for Centennial. So
Yeah.
I know the QRF kind of accounts for that, but it's not totally accurate, right?
The way we've been kind of, I guess, doing these shows is just we kind of just start with the top seed and talk about what we're and then just go down the list as far as what we're looking ahead towards this upcoming season. So you get
Sure.
to go first. Your team, the Chisago Lakes, a team that we personally have seen kind of every year get a little bit better, a little bit more attention. They were the 1 seed in the section last year. Chisago Lakes, what do you got?
Well, I'd be silly not to think that, or to throw our name in the hat again this year for the one of the top seeds. I think we're definitely in the top 3 or 4 teams. So I would be foolish to say that I don't expect us to be at the top or one of those top teams again. We are losing. I think we're losing 6 seniors from last year, 5 returning, or 5 starters, I should say. One very good defender in McKenna Olson. She actually went to Mars Hill D2 school out in, I think it's North Carolina. Cameron Peterson, she's playing at St. Ben's this year. Another very, very good midi for us. So 2 big shoes to fill there, along with a couple other attack and middies as well. But I'm very confident that we can fill their shoes, although being big. But we have Laura Carlson in net for us. Very, very good senior goalie for us. I'm expecting her to have just another great season for us. Yeah, and then we also have some returning girls, like my daughter. She's a midi. She's a junior. Cameron Hinch, another junior. Lauren Schmidt, she's a senior, another very, very strong midi for us. All 3 of those were amongst our top scorers last year, I believe. So, and then Caitlin Anderson, who's a defender, who's kind of the mini me, if you will, of McKenna Olson. She's a very, very electric player, very fast. She's actually out visiting some schools this weekend, so I expect her to play at the next level as well. So yeah, that's Chisago Lakes, I guess, in a nutshell.
Yeah, on my notes, you mentioned all the players that I had on my notes. Yeah, Laura Carlson, a 63% save percentage last year, headed Division I, Kennesaw State. So got the anchor in the back. Cameron Hinch and your daughter both had, very basically the same numbers as far as, pitching on the scoring and, draw controls and kind of all over. And then Lauren Schmidt, like you said, or sorry, that your daughter and Lauren Schmidt had pretty close numbers, and then
Yeah.
had a few more points, but yeah, they're all coming back. So it seems like you're getting a lot of your key pieces back.
Yeah.
I see there's a Gehring on the team. I know I think she had a brother on the boys team that scored 6
Yes.
goals against us.
Yep.
So if she's anything like her brother's athleticism, I don't know.
Yeah.
Probably pretty good too.
Yeah, she dealt with some injury issues last year, but I'm expecting her to come back full and strong this year and have a productive season. So yeah, I'm excited for it.
Yeah.
Before we go to like next teams, Chisago, who are your big rivals? Who are, games that, you star or that the team stars, year to year?
Well, Monticello is a big conference game for us. We battle for essentially the conference title every year. So that one's a big one for us. That one's circled for sure. We have some really good games with them as well. So it's been fun. We added Champlain Park to our schedule this year. They used to be in our section. They were out last year, but they were in our section for as long as I've been around. But they knocked us out of the section 2 years in a row. So and we've been building and climbing on them as well, getting stronger, getting some tighter games, and we play with my girls play with a lot of their girls in the summer, like in club and whatnot. So you're developing that, that friendly rivalry as well, right?
Yep.
Which is great. I love it. Forest Lake is just down the road from us. Again, kind of that same thing where our girls have played hockey against them or lacrosse or various sports. So it's kind of a fun rivalry as far as that goes too. So
noting Monticello, what we haven't said is that you guys were undefeated up until your section semifinal. So that's a huge season for you guys. And Monticello was really your only close game. So is it typically close? And I guess maybe kind of walk us through a little bit of that. I mean, last game, do you guys feel like maybe you have some unfinished business in the section? Kind of is that game, sections are probably just circled regardless because
right.
You were going as with everybody, but I feel like you guys had this insane season, and then to high seed and then to lose the Centennial. I'm sure that game is
that one still hurts.
Maybe a little higher. Higher priority than the rest.
Yeah, for sure. But Monticello, it's like one of those teams where it doesn't matter what your records are. It's just going to be a close game, right? They were very familiar with us. We are them, and we just know. And their girls get up for our games, vice versa. So that's a lot of fun for us and fun for the girls. That Centennial game, that section game last year, still hurts. I got to be honest with you, it still hurts.
We've all been there.
We knew what's that?
We've all been there.
Yeah, I bet. It's just one of those games where I felt our girls were prepared. We knew what they were going to bring. They're very, very aggressive, athletic team. We were prepared, but we just came out a little flat, gave them a little head start, and just came up a little short. So, but I know that our team's going to remember that game, and I think we're going to be stronger for it. So,
for sure. Moving to the number 2 seed, Grand Rapids Greenway. Hey, what do we have on them?
Yeah, quality team from the north, right? We don't see them a lot. Again, just kind of looking at records and stats and stuff. But they were 11-2, which is, I don't care where you play, is very respectable, right? They have some really good athletes up there, some great hockey players, great hockey tradition, and I think they get a lot of them. They have Riley Sherlock. She's a returning goal scorer from last year, 42 goals. So she's a big player for them. Mercury Bischoff, if you follow girls hockey, she's Miss Minnesota on the hockey side this year. So great athlete. Mariah Cole is a sophomore goalie. She was one of the better goalies in the section last year, and as far as numbers go. So I expect big things out of them. They didn't lose. I think they lost 7 graduating seniors last year, but replenished that with 8 seniors this season. So I expect them to hit the ground running. I guess a lot of experience. So
Yeah, on my notes, I have this Riley Sherlock, 72 points last year, like 46 goals, like you mentioned. They do lose 2 of their next couple scores, so that might be actually next 3 scores. So the 3 of their seniors were kind of the 2, 3, and 4 score for them. So Mercury Bischoff had 12 points last year. She'll probably be asked to maybe contribute a little bit more on the offensive end. But like you said, they get a handful of players back, and like you also said with the schedule doesn't really matter. They were they had an 11-2 record. Their only losses were to Centennial and Gentry Academy in the very beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Which, who knows what kind of team you have at the beginning of the season sometimes.
Yeah.
And then went on a huge winning streak until they met Andover in section. So definitely a team to watch in the North for sure.
Yeah, I think we play them our second game of the season this year, so
nice.
we'll know right away where we stand or where they stand. So
nice. Yeah, it's nice to get some of those section matchups in and kind of see where everybody is. The 3 seed last year, I have to like figure out where all these teams are. Duluth Wolfpack. Anything on them?
Again, kind of like Grand Rapids, great record. They play the Duluth teams in Grand Rapids, and I think they kind of go back and forth with them a little bit. They are returning, or they lost six seniors. Not sure how much they played, but they're returning like 14 seniors this year. So this year's seniors, I have 14 of them, I believe. Again, not sure how many of those started, but older, stronger girls that can make an impact probably at any time. So.
Yeah, it looks like Ella Brisbois and Grace Caracas, those are their 2 leading scorers. They both graduated, but they do get Grayson Shipper back as well.
I believe Ella Brisbois is playing at CSB, I want to say.
Yeah, so that's what it says
quality
here.
Player. Yep.
Yeah, quality player. But they get Nia Kramer back as well. So a couple girls that definitely contributed last year, will be back for them. They had a goalie that was a 10th grader, so they get their goalie back too. So, couple key players, and they had it looks like 14-11 loss to Grand Rapids Greenway. So really close with them, and I think maybe that's why they were the 3 and Grand Rapids was the 2, maybe because that.
Sure.
But obviously a quality team again up there, in that part of the state. Looking at number 4, another Duluth team, Duluth Marshall, fairly new program, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah, I believe that was their second season last year.
Yeah. So Duluth Marshall. Anything on them?
Well, I've gotten to know their coach Jennifer over the last couple of years. We played them over the summer, so back and forth with them a little bit. Quality club. Her and her husband, I think, are both coaching. They came from Colorado with good lacrosse backgrounds, so that could be part of their early success. Just getting girls in the right place and doing the right things. They graduated 4 seniors. They have 4 returning juniors and 4 returning sophomores this year. So Anna Huron, their daughter, is a D3 commit, I believe, as a goalie. Nina Thorson is one of their top players, returning. I believe she's a returning scorer. Their top four scorers are back this year. And I know that they've been playing a lot of lacrosse this winter. They've been driving down to, I believe it's St. Paul somewhere to play in that Sixes League. So in the homegrown Sixes League, I think it is. So they've been playing some lacrosse, and they have some dedicated girls up there. So,
Katie, should we get on the same sideline this spring, or?
Yeah, no. We already work in club world together. I think that's enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they definitely get a bunch of players back, and um, yeah, I mean, obviously, it gets always tough with like a new coaching staff. Takes a little bit of time to develop your culture and your systems and the lingo and how you're
Hmm.
teaching stuff. And yeah, they got a nice squad here that's coming back. And I don't think all of their games are inputted into Laxa, but yeah, this Nina Thorson was their leading scorer, and then like you said, the next few um they're all coming back. So looks like a Sarah Stauber. It wouldn't be a Duluth team without a Stauber. That big sports name up there. But yeah, this team could be sneaky coming into this year for sure.
Yep. Right. I agree.
The 5 seed, the Centennial team, the Centennial, are they the Cougars, I believe, Centennial Cougars.
Yeah.
A team that, I think it's weird because they're kind of like they play a lot of like city teams, but they're in Section 7 with a lot of outer metro teams. So Centennial's always an interesting one to me. So what are your thoughts on them heading into this season?
Kind of the same like we talked about Andover earlier. I think they finished 6-7 last year, regular season. But they always seem to have some top players. They're well coached. They play really super aggressive. I think they graduated 7, so they do have some shoes to fill this year. They have 4 returning seniors, some 8 juniors, I believe. So, and I know a couple of those girls personally, and expect them to step up and fill those spots. Some of their top players are Ella Weist and Lillian Brazen and Kenzie Munger. Some quality players that saw a lot of minutes last year. So, like I said, they're well coached. Centennial always comes to play. They play a pretty good schedule as well, so they're pretty battle tested throughout the season.
Yeah, they do feel like a team that it kind of they're always tough, and they're like, again, a record maybe isn't a good indication of kind of where they're at. And
Yeah.
it's a school and a like an athletic department. I feel like that has a lot of pride and they do things right, and they always have athletes at Centennial, boys and girls.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like, even though they're the 5 seed last year or whatever, I don't think they're going away. And I think they'll be a tough team in the section as well.
Looking at their schedule last year, like streaky, right? They win a bunch of games to start, then they kind of go through a glut. But you look at they played 3 games in 4 days, and you lose one, and then you lose another one. Third game in the
Right.
4th day, you just gotta be like, just we're looking
Yeah.
forward next week. So, yeah, that it looks like they were kind of in one in the middle of May there.
Right. And those are the things that QRF doesn't account for, right?
No, no,
It doesn't. That's not one of the in the algorithm. So
they got to add that to the algorithm. Come
right
on.
somehow. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, like the games were like, yeah, like 1 goal, like grinder games too. Like,
Yeah.
just, tough. But moving to the 6 seed, the winner of Section 7 last year, a team that has been really good for a while now, Andover. Um, you know, uh, I know they were like insanely good a few years ago, and then maybe
Mhm.
had a little drop, and then kind of last year flew under the radar, and then they got hot at the right time and made a run to
Yeah.
state.
Yeah, and they're well coached. Brad Geis over there does a really nice job getting those girls to peak at the right time and filling up that schedule with the right teams. They got some really talented girls on that team. I'm getting to be more and more familiar with them each season. Watch them play in the Yeti Lacrosse or the club team up there. So,
Yep.
Lucy Morgan, their goalie, I think she's committed to UW Lacrosse, as well as Ella Yates, mini for them. Both
Is she
strong
returning?
players.
Senior
Ella?
goalie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she was a force. We played them our first round of state.
Oh.
P-Mac, remember that game?
Yeah, this was in my notes. Like,
Yeah.
I double checked to make sure she was a senior.
Yeah,
Really good goalie. Like,
yeah.
I don't know how she stands up against everybody else, but I've seen her play one game, and I was like, whoa, like there's
was-
something there. I was
Yeah, it
very
was us
impressed.
against her that game. It
Yeah.
Like for
Yeah.
our first round in state, we were scared. Like we
She
were
was
like
doing
we were
everything to
scared.
steal that game from Prairie
Yeah,
Lake.
she was, and she probably just. I mean, I don't. Again, if she plays like that all the time, awesome. But I remember she had a particularly great game against us, and was like, what? What else do we do? Like she was the game plan multiple
Oh, cool.
times during the game of like we couldn't get by her.
Is
So
she committed
again, I don't know
somewhere?
if
Do you
she.
know?
Yeah, Lacrosse, I believe.
Cross?
Yeah, UW Lacrosse.
I don't know. I she'd be on my watch list for Mrs. Goalie. I don't know. I've only seen her
Yeah.
once, but she was legit.
Outstanding. Yeah. So good, exciting for them that she comes
Mhm.
back.
Yep.
Yeah, and kind of similar sentiment to Centennial. Andover is also a big school, the proud athletic program. You know, there's just they have been doing things right over there, a big growing community. And so again, like despite maybe some graduation, there's probably athletes coming up that we don't even know
Right.
that will be filling those spots, and will always be a tough competitor in the section. The number,
Becoming a lacrosse town, I feel like.
yeah, yeah. The boys' team's getting better. The
Yeah.
girls have been great for. I mean, as long as we've been running this podcast since what 2020. And I feel like Andover has been one of the teams to one of the top teams in girls lacrosse.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, they play a really, really nice schedule. So they're ready to go by the end of the season. And that's what you shoot for, right?
For sure. The 7 seed Blaine, last year got upset by Anoka, the 10 seed in the play-in round. Blaine, what do we have on them heading into this season?
I believe they're a pretty young team last year. I don't think they lost anyone to graduation. They have.
I remember that. Yeah, sounds right.
I think they have. Yeah, I think they have everybody back. They have 3 girls committed. Brooklyn Hedberg's going to CSP. I'm pretty sure. Well, I know for sure she is. Alyssa Mathis and Kira Lindeen are also committed. So yeah, they're gonna be a good, strong team. We played them last year, and they give us a lot of fits. They're a pretty well coached team, and they're just in the right spots. Very athletic team, and I expect them to make some noise this year in the section.
Looks like their goalie Olive Hagel or Hugel, a freshman last year. So a year under her belt, coming back, now as a sophomore, I think is going to pay dividends. Not easy being a goaltender in lacrosse, and
Right.
freshman on varsity, that's even tougher. So, shout out to her. And I think, as I'm clicking through this, they get a lot of players back, and might be a team kind of a dark horse team to watch this year in Section 7. Also to note on Andover, they're the only 0-1 team currently on LACSUB in the 2025 season. The 2025 season, they have a do not delete test loss against Edina. So tough
It
stuff.
caught me off guard. That caught me really off guard. That I was like, Edina went to state, and I was like so confused.
Tough start for the Huskies. They're already 0-1.
Yeah, always against Edina.
According to LACSUB. So that was, I saw that, I was like, how do they have a game already played?
Right.
That I realized what was going on. But the 8 seed Spring Lake Park, big win in their play-in game, and then ran into Chisago Lakes. Spring Lake Park, on the boys' side, Spring Lake Park is co-opted with Coon Rapids. On the girls' side, it looks like they're separate. So that's good news for just numbers-wise and growth-wise that they are both able to have their own teams.
Yeah, they're at 6 and 7 last season. Very, very honorable season, right? And they're returning a lot of players this year. Pretty well coached. It's one of those teams that they give you fits. They figure out ways to get it done, and they play hard. They come to play every game, and played them the last 3 seasons, I believe, and had some pretty high quality games with them. So
Yeah, they got this Grace Schmidt, 40 goals last year, 91 draw controls. So a big time player for them. I think it looks like was kind of their top player last year, and probably going to be carrying the load again this year. But I'm just looking through, they did graduate a couple of their scorers. So, we'll see what happens there. But they had some young players too that were in the top 4 or 5 for their scoring. So that will be interesting to watch, how they progress with, obviously, with a superstar. She had 40 goals and 1 assist. So I don't know if a lot of their players only had 1 assist, so maybe they weren't tracking them as much, but I was like, yeah, that's interesting. Just goes to the rack scores, but yeah, no, that they seem like a solid squad. We don't have to go super deep into the remaining teams, but we have Hermantown Proctor was the 9. Anoka was the 10 that we talked about. Forest Lake was the 11. Coon Rapids was the 12. Out of those teams, is there or even like the last couple we talked about, is there like a dark horse team or a team you think might be a little bit better this year for any reasons that maybe we don't know about?
Well, I know Anoka should be solid. They have a lot of kids returning. I think they only graduated 3 girls last year. Ellie does a nice job there. Again, they're always a team that shows up and plays and give you fits. I don't know much about Proctor Hermantown. They do have a defenseman that is committed. I'm not sure where, but they have a couple nice players in Lexi Hoops and Ella Roth. Just some good athletes up there. Forest Lake has a new coach, Chad Brandvold. He was actually my OC last year, or the last 3 years. So that one stings a little bit. He's going to be missed, and I expect him to change things around up there. So
yeah, and
you said that's always a rivalry for you guys, right next door. Yeah.
Yep.
Even more so than this year.
And that just adds to it now,
yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Yep.
it'll be fun.
It'll be fun. Yep.
Yeah.
I remember it must have been 2 summers ago now. My daughter was playing U8 lacrosse, and Forest Lake was really good at the younger age level. So they probably aren't quite that group that I saw is probably isn't in high school yet, but I think like their youth program has been doing some nice things like at that level, and hope that pays dividends for them as I assume like they'll probably have a good team in a couple years here.
Yeah, I expect them to. They have some good youth numbers. So.
Yeah, Ted, you'll remember more than I do, but I feel like in 2020, when we first did this, they were like in the top 10 teams in the state.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that year I want to say they had like 4 or 5 D2 or D1 commits on that team, like really loaded. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the first year we kind of like went through a ranking of teams, and we were all like Forest Lake, and so it's proof that they've done it, they can do it again, and kind of climb their way back up there for sure.
Right.
Looking kind of to the end of the year, where do you feel Section 7 kind of fits in? Like what's maybe like where I didn't dive super far into the stats as far as like where they've placed over the years, but like what are your thoughts on Section 7 at like getting in, like whoever represents that section in the state tournament?
So whoever comes out of the section, how they're gonna?
Yeah, like kind of what are your thoughts on like where they fit in and that sort of thing?
I don't know. I feel like Section 7 has been more competitive over the years in the state tournament. Like I said, Andover gave you guys fits last year, that first game, run into a hot goalie, and you just never know, right? I think we've been getting more and more competitive every season. The kind of that playing field's leveling out a little bit for Section 7 in that state tournament. So,
yeah, no, I would agree, and the Northwest Suburban Conference, which a lot of these teams play in, has been pretty strong. Mm-hmm. At least, again, like the last few years we've been doing this. So a lot of those teams get, games, and then like the northern teams, I'll rope Chisago Lakes in that group, even though you're not quite a northern team, but have been like every year getting a little bit better. And the last 2 years for sure, I know we've been talking and recognizing Chisago Lakes because you guys have had really good seasons. So and it maybe has gone farther back than that, but I agree. I think Section 7 is maybe one that doesn't get talked about a lot for us, maybe because we don't see those teams because of where we live and coach. But
right.
there's a lot of good lacrosse being played in those areas, and like there's club stuff up there now, and there's like all these things. So I would agree. I think it's a tough section. It's a section that has a lot of pride, and will play hard once they get to the state tournament, and have won state games in the past and done well. So I would agree. We are not asking coaches to rank teams or whatever this year, but do you have any interesting takes or bold predictions for it's hard with the last year, about as bold as it can get with the QRF, but any big takeaway like in general for the section this upcoming year?
Well, I'd be silly not to throw my kids in there. My team. I really think we missed one last year, missed an opportunity, and that's really gonna fuel us for this season. Everyone on this team, knows how that felt. So I think that's going to give us a lot more motivation this year. I've been thinking about this one. My big take, I think, is Blaine. I'm really expecting them to make a lot of progress this year. Like I said earlier, they didn't lose it. I don't think they lost a player due to graduation. So they're going to be a fairly strong team, and I expect them to be one of the top teams in our section this year too.
Yeah, for sure. Love it. I love it. Well, Brent, thank you for your time tonight, giving us a little insight on all these teams, and good luck to your squad this year. And
thanks.
Hopefully we're talking about you towards the end of the season this year.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, thanks for your time, and this is a great show. I listen to you guys all the time, so thanks for taking the time to talk to us, and hopefully we represent Section 7 well, and Section 7 represents us in the state tournament. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, we appreciate it.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Yep. Have a good one.
And thank you to Coach Brent for coming down the alley, repping Section 7 and talking Section 7 girls lacrosse. Interesting section. Just like on the boys' side, QRF threw some curveballs. But hey, that makes it interesting. It makes it fun. And the thing about sections and the thing about high school sports, doesn't matter what your seed is, or how many games you won in the regular season, whatever, you've got a seat in the dance, and anything can happen.
Yeah. A couple extra notes here that were kind of at the bottom of the sources notes. Chisago Lakes lost 7 seniors. However, a direct quote from many of the sources, quote, a very underrated team that deserves some more coverage, unquote. I think, I think they were a good team last year. I feel like we've talked about them more the last couple of years, and hey, now we got the coach on. This is the start of more coverage. They have a rock star goalie. They have a lot of, pieces coming back. I think they're going to be, in contention for that 1 seed again. Blaine, he kind of touched on it here. Blaine was 5-9 last year, 0 seniors. So that is confirmed, 0 seniors. So you get literally everybody back, and to that, only 5 of the 21 are 2025s. So now they have they only graduate 5 after this year. This could be the start. This could be a buy low opportunity for the Blaine Bengals girls lacrosse program. I don't know. Interesting. And it's nice to hear that they're going back to a seeding meeting and not QRF. I think that it will be for boys and girls. So,
Okay.
I think at the end of the day, the best teams come out. You got to beat everybody at like most teams at some point. However, there are some weird ones where it's like Centennial going on the road in a quarterfinal when they ended up being in the section final. I don't know. It does mess with some things a little bit if you're not having those discussions, especially when not everybody plays each other during the regular season. If everybody played, then it's like, hey, win the game, you get a better seed. But
Right.
That's not how it works in a lot of these sections, especially this section with 12 13, 12 teams. So like you can't play everybody in the section. That's all of your games for a whole season. So yeah, I don't know. I think
Katie, ladies first,
Yeah. 4-1.
4-1.
Number 4, I'm going Blaine. Putting him in. Number 4, Blaine. I'm gonna go number 3, Centennial. 2, Chisago Lakes. No, I'm gonna go 2 Andover, 1 Chisago Lakes. I think they'll get the 1 seed again.
I've got the same rankings except Andover 1, Chisago 2, strictly because of the goalie in Andover. And they won the section last year. So I'm riding the winner, and I think they have the best goalie. I haven't seen all of them. They have the best goalie that I've seen in the section. Therefore, I'm taking. I think that goalie's gonna put the team on their back, take them back to state.
interesting. Yeah. I'm gonna go Anoka 4. I'm going Blaine 3. I'll go Chisago Lakes 2 and Andover 1.
No
I wonder if
Centennial.
Chisago Lakes plays Andover in the season. That's kind of what I was going off of. Like,
Yeah, I don't know.
Chisago Lakes was undefeated last year. Like, obviously they should get that's why they got ranked 1, but they should get the 1.
Yeah, no, I would say it kind of seems like the same thing for PMAC, but myself, it's the 1 and the 2 are pretty close for me in this section, I feel like. And then Blaine and Anoka are kind of dark horse teams. Leaving Centennial out, maybe it's bold. They're a tough squad. They kind of always bring a good team to the table, but
I like it though. I like it.
like what yeah, I like those other schools and what they have kind of returning and coming up. So I'm going to be bold, but section 7
And in 10 years we'll be saying Forest Lake you saw this past spring.
Forest Lake in 2021 was like 11-4.
Yeah, they were solid. Katie, do you want to do your boys predictions?
Oh, I'm going to go 4 Blaine, 3 Andover, 2 Champlain Park, 1 Centennial.
All right. There you have it. Katie's rankings for boys.
Section 7.
All of our rankings for girls. Anything else?
Katie, why don't you want to coach with me? The Duluth Marshall coaches coach together.
I don't think that would be in the best interest of our marriage. I mean, I would be the head coach probably, and you would be the assistant.
Okay.
You'd probably agree to that.
Would we coach boys or girls?
I don't know. That's interesting. That's interesting. I don't think I could do high school boys. I think I could do youth boys.
We're talking high school. We're not going to coach a youth team together.
I don't know if I know enough about the boys game to coach high school level boys lacrosse.
I believe the coaching staff of the Northwestern girls is the wife is the head coach and the husband is the assistant.
Yeah.
So it can be done.
Yeah, it can
be done at the highest levels. So that actually raises an interesting point because you said I don't know enough about boys lacrosse to coach at that level. Is the role of the head coach to know the most about lacrosse?
No.
You could hire well. Maybe PMAC's your defensive coordinator. Maybe he's JV. Maybe he's.
You're right. You're right.
You should probably throw me at water boy.
I have very good
organized bus.
Yeah, I can.
If you
coach
talk
both boys and girls equally, I feel like I have very good disciplinary skills.
Yeah. Hey, if you talk to any CEO, they have no clue what the business does and what.
They
just have the long-term vision, right?
I don't think it's in our near future, but I guess we'll never say never.
Yeah.
It'd be fun. but I don't know like how far.
Just and schedule wise, it'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. It'd make our lives easier.
Yeah. I think we work well together.
Yeah, maybe we'll try it sometime.
Consider it. Anything else? I can't believe that next week is the
Yeah,
last section, the last deep dive, and then I guess we have to start actually talking about real things, like real facts. As these are not your opinions, we will be talking. I guess maybe we have one more week of opinions before games start. Goes by quick. We're heading into section 8. I don't even remember what we talked about on section.
I don't even remember last week.
Point.
I don't remember like section 6.
Yeah. But yeah. Any closing thoughts before we shut it down?
We got a playoff in the Players Championship.
In golf.
Are they going right now?
No, tomorrow. It's already like they had like a 3-hour rain delay.
Yeah, they rained out. Yeah.
They got to play 3 holes tomorrow.
All right.
Oh, something to watch on a Monday.
Yeah. P-Mac was watching rugby this morning and when Sammy was a baby, didn't you watch a lot of soccer? Because it was like the middle of the summer.
It's on in the morning.
It's on at like 6 a.m. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd be on like Sundays before NFL. Like
I remember you said that you watched a lot of Premier League when Sammy was a baby.
Yep.
So P-Mac's a big rugby guy now.
Yeah. Good.
I'm not a big rugby guy. It was just on. I just threw the TV on.
Yeah. Next week, section 8, final section, and we will catch you on the flip side.
Adios.
Are you looking for a dedicated partner for your lacrosse needs? ES Lacrosse has got you covered. If you're brand new to the game, a seasoned vet, or a dedicated lacrosse parent, ES Lacrosse is the go-to partner for Minnesota lacrosse and DTA Nation. Whether you need new gear, a restringing of your current setup, custom uniforms or apparel for your team, or one of their awesome starter sets for your brand new lacrosse player, the selection, expertise, and service at ES Lacrosse is unmatched. You can visit them in store at one of their 3 metro locations in Woodbury, Chanhassen, and Vadnais Heights, or visit them online at eslacrosse.com. Hey, DTA Nation, with the spring season right around the corner, that means it's time to start planning those grad parties. Old Southern Barbecue has great catering options for your senior. You can go with the barbecue staples like wings, ribs, or barbecue sandwich sliders, but they even have an incredible mac and cheese bar option as well. Congrats to all the seniors from DTA and OSB as you head into the final chapter, and go to oldsoutherncatering.com to get your grad party planning underway. And make sure to tell them that DTA sent you.